I don't want to invite dirty people into my brand new, beautiful home. That's what Lily told me over the phone. The way Lily spoke, it was as if she thought I had no common sense. Just because she's my son's wife doesn't give her the right to insult me like that. And my son is no better. Stay tuned for a mother-in-law's revenge. My name is Grace, and I'm 65 years old. My husband James is 5 years older than me. We live in a lovely house in the suburbs. Our home is filled with antiques and furniture you don't see much of these days, all inherited by my husband. Even at 70, James always says, "Leave it to me, I'll handle it." He takes care of everything himself. It's amazing how he can work in the garden from morning till night and still be so cheerful. I've been inspired by him. Even after retiring, I didn't just rely on my pension. I work at a friend's lunchbox shop. We have a son, Alexander, who's turning 30 this year. He was our long-awaited child, and I think we might have spoiled him a bit. Still, he's now a proud employee of a listed company and has made a life for himself. He started living on his own in the neighboring state, but still visits us a few times a year. He began dating a young lady named Lily, who's 5 years younger, and they got married shortly after. Lily, whom he met at work, is a young and very charming woman, always smiling and well-groomed. My first impression of Lily was that she looked like a princess from a fairy tale. I was thrilled to think such a beautiful woman would become my daughter-in-law. However, that first impression would soon be tested. About a year after their wedding, while I was checking the lottery numbers, a hobby of my husband, my son called. Lately, he hadn't visited us, always finding some excuse. "It's been a while." "What? You want to live with us?" Apparently, the apartment they were living in was going to be demolished. They decided to build their own house, and while they had chosen the land and the builder, they needed a place to stay for a few months until their new home was ready. "Lily's parents live in an apartment. Our house is big, and we have spare rooms, right? I thought it was a great idea. If you two are okay with it, then I guess it's fine." As my son said, we do have unused rooms. There shouldn't be any problem with them living here for a few months. "Is your job going to be okay? You do realize the commute will be longer, right?" "It'll be fine. Lily's a housewife, and I can work remotely, so we're counting on you." And just like that, he hung up. I wonder if he really understands. The reason he started living on his own was that the commute took 3 hours round trip. Did he forget that? Well, he probably considered the convenience of our place before asking, so I shouldn't worry. Above all, I was genuinely happy to live with my son again. "Why not? Having young people around will add some zest to our lives," my husband said, laughing cheerfully when I told him about our son's request. A few weeks later, my husband was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. He had slipped on a pedestrian bridge and tumbled down the stairs during a walk. When the paramedics called, a chill ran down my spine. Fortunately, he survived, but he had damaged a part of his brain during the fall and was diagnosed with a high-level brain dysfunction. It might be challenging for him to continue his daily life as before. He'll need rehabilitation, and if he's discharged and comes home, he'll need care. Possibly from a live-in caregiver or you. The doctor's words brought me to tears in front of someone else for the first time at this age. Given the current situation, I couldn't visit him often, which stressed me out. But when I did see my husband during the short visiting hours, he looked mostly the same. Despite his complaints about wanting to come home, I couldn't bear the thought of sending him to a nursing home. So I decided to bring him home once he was discharged. After a while, my son and his wife finally came to visit. According to them, they were busy with house-related matters and couldn't find the time. They have their own lives. I swallowed my complaints. More importantly, I had something to tell them. I explained that with my husband's care needs, living together might be challenging. So I'm sorry for the sudden change, but let's forget about the living together plan. We don't mind at all. It's okay. What do you mean you don't mind? I was taken aback by Lily's response. Many families live like this. It's not a big deal. Plus, we'll be kicked out of our apartment in a couple of months. Do you expect us to find a new place just for a few months? With a puzzled look, Lily blurted out her thought. I understood her logic, but something about the way Lily said it bothered me. My son, sitting next to Lily, nodded in agreement. He finally spoke up. You know, I might be too busy, but since Lily's a housewife, she can help out with a lot of things, right? Lily responded with a bright smile. Their behavior was a bit concerning, but I was about to face the challenges of caregiving for the first time. If living with my son and his wife meant getting some help, I'd be grateful. All right then, welcome. They seemed pleased with my response and left. Soon after my husband was discharged from the hospital, my son and his wife arrived with loads of luggage. They stuffed everything into the spare room. Without unpacking, they both left to meet some old friends from town. It was like a whirlwind. Oh well. They've been away for a while, so I should cut them some slack for today. I sighed and returned to caregiving and house chores. The doctor was right. My husband had changed completely. He had moments of clarity, but he'd often spill food, get distracted by the TV, and even had accidents. He'd get angry or cry over trivial things and would stumble or bump into things in our familiar home. I couldn't take my eyes off him. He was undergoing regular rehab, but I wasn't sure if he understood his condition. I'd secretly sigh when he wasn't looking. Once things settled down, I'd need to discuss my husband's current state with my son. Just knowing I wasn't alone gave me some comfort. I never imagined that comfort would be betrayed. Maybe I was too lenient at the start. Even after moving in, my son would lock himself in his room, claiming he was working remotely. Lily, instead of helping with chores, said she was busy unpacking and stayed in her room. Dinner's ready. Only then would they emerge. I'd only see them during meals or when they went out. They wouldn't help with meal prep or even clean up after eating. I wanted to scold them, but I couldn't take my eyes off my unpredictable husband. Within a week of living together, my frustration with them grew. I couldn't trust them with my husband. I quit my job to focus on caregiving and housework. While I worked tirelessly, they continued their lazy routine. Even when I asked Lily for help, she'd say she would, but never did, leaving me to do everything. Living together was a disaster. Their presence only added to my workload. I was at my breaking point. Mom, you look tired, my son remarked during dinner, pointing at me with his fork. If you think so, then help out, he chuckled. Come on, I'm working, even if it's remote. I'm a bit of a clean freak. I can't do the things you do. Their words filled me with rage. Suddenly, my husband shouted, What are you doing? Look, you spilled the soup. I gently wiped the tiny droplet with a tissue. I'm sorry, Dad. See, it's clean now. Okay. Relieved to see him resume eating, I took a deep breath. Lily, however, frowned and stood up, leaving her dishes behind. I'm done. Some food splashed when he yelled. What? Hey, Alexander, I'm still hungry. Let's go out. Lily wrapped her arm around my son's and spoke in a sweet voice. Without hesitation, my son stood up and said nonchalantly, Fine, we're going to grab some food then. Wait, what? How can you just decide that? Even as I tried to stop them, the two left without looking back. With the messy dinner for two left untouched, my husband beside me spoke softly. What a waste. It's so delicious. Hearing his words, she felt a lump in her throat. Every now and then, glimpses of the kind man she married would shine through. Each time it reaffirmed her love for him. Caring for her husband wasn't easy, but mentally, he was still sharp as ever. You know, the lottery is coming up. Let's buy a ticket. Maybe we'll win more than $3 this year. At that, her husband laughed heartily. She wished to keep things as normal as possible for him. It had been a month since they started living together. Timing it when her husband was having his therapy session, she called the two who seldom helped around. "Look, I'm not asking you to care for him, but could you at least help a bit with the chores?" She explained her husband's condition in detail once more, but they seemed indifferent. "Look, to someone old-fashioned like you, it might seem like we're just lazing around, but we're busy with work and planning for our home. I'm swamped preparing for our new place. The only break I get is going out once in a while." She wanted to say that since her husband's discharge, they hadn't been out and she barely slept. But she swallowed her words. Her husband was the one truly suffering. "So, you're too busy to help. Can you at least contribute a bit to the household expenses?" "That's harsh, mother-in-law. We're a young couple, and we'll need money for our future." She shot a cold glare at Lily's teary eyes. Ever since they moved in, the food and electricity bills had definitely increased. It was obvious. They blasted the air conditioner all day and used many electronic devices. And the food? If they didn't like the menu, they'd leave most of it. "You two might not get it, but living costs money. Isn't it common sense to contribute if you're staying for more than a month?" At her words, Lily pursed her lips and muttered, "If we have to pay, what's the point of agreeing to live together?" "What did you say?" I couldn't believe my ears at Lily's words. Lily smiled as if nothing happened. "If you need money, maybe stop wasting it on lottery tickets. Save that money instead." "That's his only hobby. I won't let you take that away from him." She glared at the smug-looking Lily. Lily, with a shrug and a teasing tone, said, "Mother-in-law, you're looking scary. You'll get more wrinkles, you know." Something snapped inside her. "Don't mock me when I'm being serious." As she was about to raise her voice, her son loudly tapped the table and sighed. "Ugh, Mom, you're overreacting. Don't scare my Lily. If caregiving is so hard, just send him to a nursing home." Lily's eyes sparkled at his words. What's with those enchanting eyes? What's with that dreamy look? Does she think he's being brave? He knew his father was mentally sound, yet he said such a thing loudly. Couldn't he imagine how his father would feel if he heard that? Seeing her speechless, her son shook his head in exasperation. "You think you've hit the nail on the head, huh? Ugh, so annoying. Always getting irritated. Is it menopause or something? Don't even have the money to put yourself in a nursing home? So you're asking us for money?" "That's not the point. Poor mother-in-law. If my old beauty products are okay, I'll give you some serum. You seem broke, so it's on the house." Lily grabbed her son's arm, smiling triumphantly. The couple left the room, side by side. Soon after, the distant sound of the front door closing echoed. A whirlwind of emotions surged, but I couldn't throw out their massive luggage or kick them out on my own. I decided never to live with them again, telling myself it's just a bit longer. 2 months later, they seemed to have settled into their new home and finally left. They never contributed to household chores or finances, but at least I was free from the immense stress. "Looking forward to your housewarming gift." I watched Lily wave with a blank expression. Honestly, I wasn't in the mood to celebrate for such a couple, but they probably expect something. They might invite us over to their new place at least once. Should we prepare something before they ask? We had just received an unexpected bonus, so spending a bit wasn't a big deal. We decided to buy a decently priced wall clock as a housewarming gift for our son and his wife. It was a beautifully crafted radio-controlled clock with a design that would fit any room. We waited for a call from them, but a week passed with no word. Even after what they said, no contact at all. Come to think of it, we don't even know what kind of house they built, let alone their address. It would be too late if something happened to my husband or me. We need to at least know their address for emergencies. I hurriedly called my son. "Hello, what's up?" After several tries, I finally got through. I had called my son's cell, but it was Lily, sounding quite annoyed, who answered. "We haven't heard from you since you moved. You need to tell us your address." "Well, if I tell you, you'll come over, right?" "Of course. We even have a housewarming gift for you." As I said that, Lily laughed coldly, as if mocking me. Hold on, a clock? You think we'd be happy with that? People usually give cash. Guess you're broke. Good thing we didn't tell you our address. I felt anger rising as Lily chuckled and spoke. You asked for a housewarming gift, and now this? That was just being polite. I can't even imagine taking care of your dirty husband, especially not in our brand new house. The demure demeanor she had when they first got married was nowhere to be found. I had my suspicions, but Lily's true nature was worse than I thought. I thought it looked like something out of a fairy tale, and I was kind of right. She was a devil in disguise. Devils only deceive those who are useful to them. We have our house now. There's no benefit in associating with poor, dirty people like you. We don't plan on having anything to do with you anymore. I could picture Lily's face, smirking in contempt. At the same time, something snapped inside me. Soon after, my son came on the line. That's how it is. We don't need your gifts. I feel the same way as Lily. Just live your lives and leave us be. Lily's condescending attitude and my son, who didn't even reprimand her, shocked me. The most surprising was the cold disconnection from the son I had lovingly raised. Any remaining affection for him faded. Oh, I see. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. If that's how they feel, we'll live our lives without them. This house is too big for just the two of us. We had kept it thinking our son might live here, but its purpose is over. I hung up and started preparing for our future. Several years passed. I was enjoying tea in the living room when my phone rang. An unfamiliar number. Hello? Hi, mother-in-law? It's been a while. I was wondering if you could help us out financially? It was Lily, with her usual sugary tone. I feel very sick. She had racked up nearly $30,000 in debt buying luxury items. My son found out, and they were on the brink of divorce. She shocked out of boredom. Why should I give money to someone like you? I asked my parents too, but we're still short. Remember those antiques and dresses you had? Can we sell those? You wouldn't want your dear son to get divorced, right? She had apparently snooped around our house. I've never shown you my dress or told you where it is. I don't care if a stranger gets divorced. Just a little help. With such a big old house, you must have something valuable. We don't have that house anymore. What? I decided to do it the day you all cut ties with me. I sold the land. Now it's just an empty lot with tall weeds growing on it. Lily was speechless at my words. Breaking the silence, Lily exclaimed, What? I never heard about this. People don't usually share such things. There's no need to, I replied. I could picture Lily's shocked and flustered face on the other end of the phone. That's old news, isn't it? Is it? It feels like just yesterday, my son was so naive and clueless to be so smitten with someone like you. Lily, seemingly irritated by my words, responded with a challenging tone. Were you so broke that you had to sell the house? Living day by day without a home now? It's really sad to be so poor and pitiful. It seemed like Lily just couldn't resist looking down on me. If she wanted a competition, I was ready. I had money, but I used it all. What? I sold it because I won a lot of money. The lottery ticket that everyone said was a waste? It won me $500,000. $500,000? Neither of us ever thought it would really win. When we were wondering what to do with the unexpected windfall, we received the declaration of disownment. To continue living peacefully as a couple, we used the lottery winnings and the money from selling the house and land to move into a luxury retirement community. Just as you all wished, we both moved into a retirement community. It's in the city center, close to the station, fully equipped with the latest appliances. The staff is always there, and if we ask, gourmet meals are served. Thanks to that, the burden of caregiving has reduced, and both your father and I are living very peacefully. Lily was silent for a while. Just as I was about to hang up, she spoke in a sweet voice, reminiscent of when we first met. Mother-in-law, I've always admired you. Taking care of that messy husband of yours is commendable. I apologize for everything up till now. Can we rebuild our relationship? If you're going to flatter, do it right from the start. I won't give you any money, especially after you treated my precious husband like trash. I could hear Lily panicking on the other end. I ignored her and hung up. A while later, Lily visited our home with her father. It seemed she had investigated based on the information I shared. As soon as I sat down, Lily's father shouted desperately, "Why didn't you tell us?" From what he said, it seemed Lily had only told her side of the story to her parents. Being forced to live together, being extorted for living expenses. And I shopped because my son wanted me to look good. And despite being rich, my in-laws won't help. And the newlyweds didn't even give a housewarming gift and sold their family home without telling us the new address. We were both so excited during the family meeting because we had children later in life. It's a parent's duty to do whatever they can for their child's happiness, right? Beside her earnest father, Lily lowered her eyes and sniffled. Her act was Oscar-worthy. I almost applauded in my mind. I'm sorry, but it seems there's a significant discrepancy between what your daughter told you and what I experienced from her. Can we clarify? Of course. I smiled warmly and began to list out all the truths I had learned from Lily without any exaggeration. Lily's father was taken aback by my straightforward account, looking completely overwhelmed. All lies, Dad! She's making all of this up. Lily's desperate plea only made my words seem more credible. She might be a great actress, but she wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. Would you like to hear the last voicemail she left me? Only if you think you can handle it. Wait, you recorded it? Lily exclaimed in surprise. To be clear, we don't have any money left. Ever since she cut ties with us, we've been preparing for our end. We've already arranged for our funerals and graves. We won't be relying on or helping our son and his wife. And just so you know, whichever one of us passes away first, we willed all our assets to the other. Oh, that's it. Lily's shoulders slumped in disappointment. She probably thought she'd eventually get her hands on our inheritance. Seeing her blatant attitude, her father was shocked. I said firmly, "Please leave." Lily and her father left, looking utterly defeated. Just then, my husband, who had been at a recreational activity, returned. Did something happen? Nothing much, just made our stance clear. He tilted his head in confusion, a gesture I found amusing, and I chuckled. Sometime later, our son messaged us, apologizing and informing us of his divorce from Lily. He went on to share unsolicited updates about Lily. After the divorce, she moved back to her parents' home, and they took on her debt. And she seems to be working on dating. She's apparently busy dating now, even asking our son if he knows any good men. She's a devilish woman with only her looks going for her. Well, her future is predictable. Our son, while paying off the house loan by himself, came crying for help. You're the one who cut ties, I responded coldly. I thought maybe our feelings for our son would return once the root of all problems, Lily, was out of the picture. But it seems it'll take some time. We're living peaceful and happy days. Thanks to the staff, we can even go shopping alone. Our relationship with each other has improved, and we're more at ease. We're known as the most loving couple in the facility. We've even been surprised with celebrations on our anniversaries. We haven't won the lottery since that incident, but we still buy tickets. Look, we won $100! I called out to my husband, comparing the winning numbers. What should we do with it? How about a date? He replied with a grin. I couldn't help but blush and smile. When that time comes, I plan to wear the dress I've kept tucked away and head out.
My name is Lily. I am a 32-year-old office worker and I have been married to my husband Sebastian for 2 years. I met and married him through a relative. My family was a bit of a wealthy family, but their children were all girls, me and my sister Marie. My relatives, who were worried about the heir, introduced Sebastian to me, who said he could be a good son-in-law. Sebastian married me, and although he did not end up becoming the son-in-law, he started living with me at my parents' house. My mother passed away a few years ago, and Sebastian and I are living at home with my parents. My husband is extremely kind and seems to be a very nice person who treats my father with kindness. But a relative who introduced my husband to me told me just before we got married that he was concerned about him. I don't know how to say this after introducing Sebastian myself, but he is very particular about money, so be careful. I was a bit embarrassed to be told this now that we had just met and were about to get married, but Sebastian didn't seem to be concerned about money, so we got married as it was. Even after we were married, I kept an eye on Sebastian because I was concerned about what my relatives said, but he did not seem to care about money. However, he seemed to be concerned about my father's wealth, so when he accompanied my father for dinner, he would casually ask him how much money he had. My father told him about it without hiding it, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. Sebastian's other concern was about my sister, Marie. She is 5 years younger than I am, and in contrast to my calm and collected nature, she is bright, active, and flamboyant with men. She looks nothing like me, and my husband muttered in surprise when he saw my sister for the first time. Your sister has a very different vibe from you, doesn't she? I have mixed feelings when I see my husband admiring my sister, who is beautiful with a clear face, the opposite of my plain and inconspicuous one. Still, the reason he was introduced to me was that my relatives were worried that if I, with my quiet personality and plain appearance, could not marry, there would be no one to take over the family business. I thought at the time that I did not have to worry about that because I had a beautiful sister, but later I came to understand why my relatives were worried. My father spoiled Marie so much that he sent her to college after high school and even to a vocational school after college. Marie did not go to college or vocational school for any particular reason. She simply did not want to work. My mother, on the contrary, was very strict with Marie and tried to persuade her to get a job right after college, but my father pushed her to go to vocational school. After Marie graduated from vocational school, she got a job at a company that our father knew, but she quit after about 6 months. When she left the company, her excuses surprised me. I can't show my talents at that company. My mother and I were appalled when she spoke as if she already understood everything about the job, even though she had not worked there for less than 6 months. However, my father, perhaps believing her story, immediately introduced her to a different company and got her a job. A short time after she joined that company, my mother fell ill and was hospitalized. When my mother was hospitalized, Marie went to the hospital every day and kept missing work. She eventually quit this employment and started saying that she would take care of our mother. She would just stay in the hospital room and talk with our mother or look at her phone in the waiting room. I had to pick up my mother's laundry and replace it with new clothes while she was in the hospital, and Marie was of no help at all. She may have been happy to talk to my mother, but after about a month in the hospital, her condition worsened to the point where she could not even talk. And within 2 weeks after her illness worsened, my mother passed away. My father and Marie were so upset by the suddenness of the situation that they could not even prepare for the funeral, so I had to do it myself. Thanks to the cooperation of my relatives, we managed to complete the funeral without incident. After my mother passed away, Marie started working part-time and at the same time moved out of our parents' house and started living alone. Since she could not pay the rent with only her part-time job earnings, our father bears the rent and utilities, and the money she earns is apparently used for fun. When her part-time job was not enough to pay the rent, she would come to our father to get an allowance. When Marie was with her mother was very strict with her, so our father did not give her any allowance after she started working, but now he gives her as much as she wants. I took it lightly, thinking that if both my father and Marie were satisfied with that, then there would be no problem. After I got married and moved in with my husband, my father continued to give Marie an allowance. I did not realize it at the time, but it seems that she also asked my husband for an allowance and he was willing to give her money. It seemed that when a beautiful sister asks him to do something for her, he can't refuse. Don't tell Lily that I gave you an allowance. If she finds out, she might get jealous. He gave my sister an allowance, but he kept quiet about it. Marie went out to work part-time whenever she felt like it and lived off the money our father and husband gave her. But such a life for her did not last forever. Our father became ill and had to be hospitalized. I went to the hospital in between jobs to take care of our father, but she never showed up at the hospital. Instead, she started calling me and asking for money. Our father has been giving me money every month, so please keep giving it to me. My rent, my utilities, they are all deducted from our father's account. She spoke to me in an angry tone, and I was surprised to learn the truth for the first time. I was angry at her for only caring about her own life, instead of worrying about our father who was hospitalized. I really wanted to hang up the phone, but she seemed to be in trouble too, so I asked her how much money our father was giving her every month. How much money does our father give you every month? Get a job and start living on your own money. She answered in a grumpy tone. You're so picky. I get $1,000 a month. And that's not including rent or anything. I'm stunned by her bragging about the amount of money she's getting. I thought to myself, if I'm giving her this much money every month as an adult, she's not going to be inclined to work seriously. I didn't think that giving money to Marie was that much of a problem, because I thought that my father would get better soon, even though he was hospitalized. However, my father's condition suddenly worsened, and I rushed to contact my relatives. The doctor told me that he was in a serious condition, and I was quite shocked. I wanted my husband to support me at this time, but he rarely showed up at the hospital, saying he was busy with his work. Moreover, even when he does show up at the hospital, isn't your father's inheritance great? Since you two sisters are the only two heirs, are you going to split it in half? He would ask me inappropriate things like that. I had no words to reply to him as he kept talking about his inheritance. I realized that this was what my relatives were talking about when they said he was so fussy about money, and at the same time, I felt disgusted. I explained to Marie that our father was in danger when she called me, but all she cared about was worrying about her own money. Don't worry about that, just make sure you pay your money every month. Without that money, I can't live. The phone call went dead just like that. Her story made me angry, but I was also concerned that I could faintly hear a male voice on the other end of the phone now. The voice sounded familiar, and I had a bad feeling about it. About a month later, my father passed away, but Marie and Sebastian did not appear even in his last moments. Having experienced my mother's funeral, I realized that preparing for a funeral is a very heavy thing to do. In addition, neither Sebastian nor Marie helped with anything, and Marie did not even attend the funeral. Sebastian did show up at the funeral, but as soon as it was over, he disappeared, saying he had work to do. The relative who introduced him to me also noticed that he was nowhere to be seen and asked me, "What happened to your husband? Isn't it strange that the mourner's husband isn't there?" I could only reply with a wry smile. He seemed busy with work, so he left. My relatives sighed as they heard my story, and I felt like sighing too. When my father's funeral was finally over and I was finally able to catch my breath, Sebastian asked me with a grin. Finally, LOL, how much did you inherit? Even if you split it in half, you're still going to inherit quite a bit, aren't you? As my relatives had warned me before we were married, his mind seemed to be occupied with my father's inheritance. Disappointed to learn of his true nature, I answered appropriately. Marie has $10 million and I have zero. I hadn't even proceeded to talk to my lawyer yet, and I had barely finished the funeral, so I wasn't sure how I felt about it. Seeing him gleefully telling me about his inheritance made me want to laugh past my anger. He believed my words and immediately shouted at me. What? You can't inherit property? You ain't got no use for me anymore. Divorce me now. I felt the same way, so I retorted. So be it. You originally married me for my father's inheritance. I'll divorce you from here. I shouted and thrust the divorce papers I had prepared at him. He was a little flustered because I had produced the divorce papers as if I had expected this to happen, but he signed them as is. He signed the divorce papers as he was leaving the house. You are with zero inheritance. I'm remarrying Marie and I'm getting $10 million. I didn't care about that and immediately went to the city office and filed for divorce papers. I was able to leave my lousy husband. He promptly filed the marriage certificate with Marie the next day. A few days later, Sebastian called me. Does he still believe that story? When are you going to do the inheritance formalities? Hurry up and give Marie the $10 million. He shouted loudly. I was waiting for him to call me too. I didn't want to contact my ex-husband, who had left the house voluntarily. I answered him in a clerical tone. Let's talk about it at my place this Sunday. I'll be waiting for you with the formalities ready. He hung up the phone, overjoyed at the thought of getting his inheritance, but I was looking forward to seeing the look on his face when he found out the truth. He and Marie came over to my parents' house over the weekend, and they were both surprised that I had called a lawyer. But he spoke as if he had convinced himself. I knew you need a lawyer when you inherit a lot of money. Then the lawyer started talking to him with a curious look on his face. We have to talk about the inheritance, but before that, I would like to talk to you about Lily's claim for alimony against Sebastian. With that, the lawyer proceeds to show him a few pictures. The lawyer shows him and Marie coming out of her house, and they are well dated. The lawyer speaks to him. These photos are evidence of the affair before the divorce was finalized, and you will have to pay alimony. I heard Sebastian on the other end of Marie's phone talking about the estate and immediately asked the lawyer to investigate his affair. Perhaps caught off guard because I was busy with my father's funeral, the two met daily at Marie's house, thanks to which I was able to obtain many photographic proofs. The two were stunned when the talk of legacy turned to alimony, but Sebastian quickly regained his composure and retorted. Alimony is a pittance compared to the $10 million inheritance. I'll pay you right away. The lawyer presented the documents for the alimony claim in front of him as he spoke so brazenly, and he signed them easily. After confirming this, I told him, I hope you and Marie are happy with your zero inheritance, and since you signed it, I'll make sure I get my alimony paid. The moment Marie heard that she had zero inheritance, she screamed at me. Hey, why is my inheritance zero? I know I get the $10 million. Sebastian got all red-faced too. There's no such thing as zero inheritance, is there? I won't allow you to keep it all to yourself. He became angry. The lawyer quietly began to explain to the two angry people. Marie is the stepdaughter of their mother, who is already dead, and since she was not adopted by their father, who has now passed away, she has no legal parent-child relationship with him. Therefore, Marie cannot inherit her father's estate. Marie looked at me as if she didn't understand what I was talking about. You were only about 1 year old when your father and mother remarried, so you probably don't remember, but I remember it very clearly. I remember because I was 6 years old when my parents remarried, and I remember how happy I was to suddenly have a little sister. It never occurred to me that I would lose my husband to such a sister. Both my father and mother were in trouble with their young children, and they thought it best to have someone to mediate between my parents and for the two of them to remarry. My mother loved me like a real daughter, and my father cared for Marie. My father spoiled Marie, perhaps because he cared more about her because she was not his biological daughter. My parents each remarried with children, but my mother refused to adopt my sister and father because relatives suspected that she was after my father's wealth. The reason why my relatives only encouraged me to be married was because they knew that I was the only one who could inherit my father's property. It would have been more complicated if my father and mother had children, but fortunately or unfortunately, they never had any. Perhaps they did not have children to avoid future disputes over inheritance. I now know that my father helped her with money even after she reached adulthood because he could not pass on his inheritance to Marie. Likewise, I was not adopted by my mother, so we were not legally parent and child, but it never bothered me in my everyday life. My parents had not told Marie that they were remarried to each other, and she seemed to have learned the truth for the first time today. Sebastian immediately understood what was going on, and his face changed from red to blue. Not only did he not get the inheritance from Marie that he had hoped for, but he was also charged alimony and had even signed the papers. He looked blue. Were you lying when you said Marie gets $10 million and I get zero? He asked me. I stifled a laugh. Of course it was a lie. I was trying to get back at you for cheating on me behind my back. Besides, there's no way my dad had $10 million in his inheritance. As expected, my father, who was a wealthy man, but did not have a $10 million inheritance. Then Marie, who had been silent until now, suddenly shouted. I've made a lot of purchases counting on our father's inheritance. Besides, what is going to happen to the money our father has been paying me? Will you pay for it? I answered my sister, who was appealing to me with a frightened look on her face. You're married and have a husband you can count on. Let him provide for you. She looked at my blue-faced ex-husband, to which Sebastian replied, shaking his head from side to side. I can't afford it either. I've shopped around a lot in anticipation of your inheritance. Besides, I even have to pay alimony, so I have to take care of myself. After he said that, he suddenly got down on his knees in front of me and started apologizing. Lily, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll apologize, but can you get back with me? My lawyer saw this and laughed as he prepared to leave. It was funny to see him down on his knees, wondering where his arrogant attitude had gone when he came to the house. When the discussion was over, Marie and Sebastian nodded and left, apparently divorced soon after. He had remarried for the inheritance that Marie would inherit, and it seemed that he was not interested in her who did not receive any inheritance. As he told me himself, he cannot even take care of her because of his alimony payments to me. Since he has no assets, I decided to have him pay the alimony in installments from his monthly salary. I was advised by my lawyer that this way he would not miss out on getting it. Our father, who had supported her, was gone, and she had no choice but to work part-time every day, but she was not able to pay her debts, so she went bankrupt. After that, she moved out of the apartment she was living in, and we don't know where she went. My father had been thinking about Marie and helping her with money, but he spoiled her in such a way that she could no longer work seriously. After that, I started living alone at my parents' house, and my relatives again talked to me about introducing a man to marry me, but I refused. I don't want to be introduced to another man like Sebastian again, so this time I want to look for a marriage partner firmly by myself. What did you think of this story? And please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.